Chapter 121. Perhaps she is a fool? After William Walton gone, Laura returned to her office. In the afternoon, after the students finished their classes, they started a lively chat in the group. A guy in the group shouted, "Students, big news. Miranda is going to hold a fan gathering at Philadelphia. She's my goddess. Do you want to go together with me?" A bunch of boys raised their hands and followed along. A few girls also raised their hands, indicating that they wanted to follow along. "I'm going to look for Miranda for my autograph." "Me too." But because the fans meet at 8:30 p.m., it was hard to get out of school at this time. After the boys gathered everyone together, they asked Laura in the group, "Sister, please help me." After being it took her half an hour to see the news in the group. When she read all the messages, she suddenly felt helpless. Seeing that Mia was about to leave, she quickly said, "Mia, my students, after 8 tonight, want to go out to attend a meeting and get an autograph. Tell me, should I let them go? If you don't agree, they'll sneak out. It'll be more dangerous that way." "But I don't feel at ease letting them out either." Mia thought for a while. "It is indeed quite troublesome," she said. "Why are the children of this year so tormenting? Do you think my students will be easy to teach? It's all the same. Among my students, there are a few who go to the internet cafe every night to play games. I'm half dead from anger. What can I do? You're better than me. They communicate with you before they go out. I feel that half of our meal bowl is hanging in the air, ready to be smashed at any time." When she thought about how she had a falling out with the principal today, if something went wrong now, the principal might give her a hard time. She thought for a moment, then picked up her phone and quickly replied them in the group chat. "If you guys leave school so late, I won't be at ease. You just want her autograph, look for Benjamin Walton, he knows Miranda." After she sent the message, the entire group went crazy. Everyone talked to Benjamin Walton. Benjamin Walton was speechless and called her. This was the first time he had called her since apologizing to her that day. "Laura, you don't have to betray me like that, right?" She felt guilty. "Look, you can't blame me for this, right? I'm not lying. Besides, you have the ability. Do you think you should sacrifice your precious time for the safety of your classmates? I can't agree to this. The one who knows Miranda is William, not me. Then you should ask William for help. Anyway, aren't they spreading rumors now as well?" Benjamin Walton exclaimed. "Laura, are you thinking too much? These two are spreading rumors, and you still dare to send William into the tiger's den?" She was speechless. What kind of tiger's den? Thinking about how William Walton had laughed complacently when she mentioned Miranda in the afternoon, she suddenly felt angry in her heart. Who said it was the mouth of a tiger? William thinks it's soft and gentle. Benjamin Walton hissed. His Laura must be a fool. Forget it, he'll help her out again. "I don't care. I promised my classmates in the group to get their signatures, but since you asked for William's autograph, you go by yourself. I can only help you here." After he finished speaking, he directly hung up the phone. As she listened to the busy signal, she was at a loss for words. When she thought of asking William Walton for an autograph, she became even more annoyed. When she got home from work, she went into the kitchen to cook. When she brought the dishes out, she was immediately shocked by William Walton, who was sitting in the living room. "When did you come?" 15 minutes ago." She walked over to the sofa and stretched out her hand. "Are you sure you don't want to hand over the key?" "I can hand over the key. When you give me your body and mind, I will return the key to you." She rolled her eyes at him, sat down, picked up her fork, and started eating. Seeing that she had only brought out a fork, William Walton asked, "Are you not giving me food to eat?" "If you want to eat, then go and get your fork. If you can even get the keys, can't you even get a fork?" William Walton laughed wickedly and moved forward. "I can't hold it. When you are in front of me, my legs were frozen, and I can't go anywhere. Feed me." She looked at him. Seeing his serious expression, he didn't seem to be joking at all. He gritted her teeth. She slapped the fork on the tea table, got up, and went to the kitchen. She took out the fork and handed it over to him. William Walton was pleased with himself. He knew how to deal with Laura. Halfway through eating, she suddenly thought about the matter between him and Miranda and the autographs that her classmates had asked for. She pouted her lips and thought, "When are you going to see Miranda?" "Why?" He looked at her, waiting to see her jealous expression. But it was her embarrassment that came. "Sigh, I want a dozen signed photos of Miranda." "Why do you want an autograph for?" "There are a few students who, in order to get their autograph, plan to leave school in the evening to attend Miranda's meetup. I was worried something might happen, so I told them that Benjamin could get her autograph, but he didn't help me at all. We've been in a Cold War for so long that he's too ashamed to ask me for help." She's shocked. "You're still in the Cold War. Otherwise, do you think I would forgive him so easily?" "Didn't he tell you? We've made up." "Make up?" "Yeah, he already humbled himself on the first day of school." Hearing her warm words, William Walton's brows raised a little. Looks like this kid isn't at a point where he's hopeless. At least he's sensible. Laura said, "You are brothers. There is no need for that. As you are the big brother, you should let him go. Other things are fine, but is my woman someone that he can point at as well?" These words instantly warmed her heart. However, it was not good for her to express it, so she changed the topic and asked, About that. Regarding the autograph, do you need help or not? Since you're begging me, I'll naturally help you. But if I go and see Miranda for your sake, won't you be angry? She curled her lips. Why should I be angry? I'm not that bored. As she spoke, she jabbed her fork into the pasta. This man clearly wanted to go, but why did he say he wanted to go for her? Seeing her angry expression, he did not expose her. Instead, he calmly ate his meal, took out his phone and made a call. Busy? Meet you for a drink. All right, we'll meet in an hour. He only said 3 sentences before hanging up. After dinner, just as Laura was about to head to the kitchen, he said, Go change your clothes and I will take you out. Take me out? She looked at him. Didn't you already arrange for Miranda to go drink? He raised his eyebrows. In order not to make you jealous, I've decided to take you with me. Chapter 122. I told you, I'm not jealous. She was displeased and stubbornly said, Who's jealous? I've already said it before. I'm not jealous. I'm not that bored. William Walton leaned on the kitchen door. Do you still want the autograph or not? If you want, then go. He discovered that in this world, the people who liked to talk back and resist him the most belonged to none other than Laura. Laura really didn't want to beg him. She had no choice but to lower her head under the eaves. She turned around and went back into the bedroom to change into a new dress. Her clothes are very conservative. One could easily see that she had a good figure as long as she was in the right clothes. Sometimes he wanted her to dress up beautifully. But most of the time, he still wanted to hide her. Only he could look at her good figure, not anyone else. Why are you looking at me like that? He turned around. Let's go. The two of them went downstairs together and William Walton drove the car to the clubhouse. This was the first time she had ever been to such a luxurious place. As soon as she entered the hall, she was attracted by the splendor of the clubhouse. Without a doubt, this place must be very expensive. She obediently looked around as she followed William Walton up the stairs and into the private room. The waiter respectfully said, Mr. Walton, please wait for a moment. I will go and invite the boss down. After the waiter left, she looked at William Walton in puzzlement. This place was opened by Miranda? William Walton looked at him and gave a charming smile, but did not say a word. She pursed her lips. He always likes to be secretive. When he didn't say anything, she stopped asking. Not long after, the waiter brought in red wine, snacks, and fruit. The waiter poured 2 glasses of wine. William Walton picked up a cup and gave it to her. She waved her hand. I don't drink. William Walton did not force him, and said to the waiter, Go make a cup of banana juice and bring it over. He still remembered the fruit she liked. She pursed her lips and smiled. At this moment, the door to the private room was opened. A handsome man with a well-built body and wearing a polo shirt walked in. Seeing that there was still a lady by William Walton's side, the man couldn't help but take a few more glances. Then he sat down and naturally crossed his legs as he looked at William Walton. How rare. I even brought a companion today. William Walton naturally placed his hand on his warm shoulder. Let me introduce you. This is the Miss Green that I mentioned to you before. The man smiled elegantly. I know. William Walton looked at her again. This is my bro. You should have heard of his name before. The domestic film and television giants, Moish. Of course she had heard of it. Back then, she had a gossip expert, Judy Allen, by her side. Moishi, one of the 4 young masters of Philadelphia, had been mentioned on the news. It heard that he had many affairs but never related to some women. Of course, it was also said that he was most likely a gay. Otherwise, how could there be a man who didn't like girls after having so much? Thinking about gay, she turned her head and looked at William Walton for some unknown reason. Miss Green, it's nice to meet you. With honor on her face, she said, Hello. The waiter knocked on the door and came in, bringing her fruit juice. Moish asked, You don't drink alcohol? Yes, I don't. William Walton laughed. Noticing the other party's sneer, she looked at him and pouted. What was this man laughing about? She really didn't drink, okay? But when would this Miranda come? Didn't he say they will meet in 1 hour? Could it be that being late for a celebrity was a privilege? Moish thought that they are flirting. He smiled. William, you didn't just ask me out at this time to drink wine, did you? Her students want 20 of Miranda's handwritten photos, William Walton said. He shook his wine cup and took a sip. If I ask her for the photos, I'm afraid she will be more jealous. I'm not jealous, she retorted. He took out his cell phone and made a call. Go find Miranda and bring 20 signed photos to Mr. Walton's house. After hanging up the phone, Moisha said, It is better for me to do this. She was sitting on the side, so he brought her out to see Moishe, not Miranda? Her heart inexplicably cleared up a bit. She picked up the juice and started drinking it through the straw. William Walton asked, Where's Mooney? At home. Has she been quiet lately? Do you think this little girl will settle down? Heh, it's normal for her and Benjamin to be more rebellious at their age. Rebellious? I think that she has hardened her wings and wants to fly out of my control. Yesterday, she went to find Jack and made him persuade me to allow her to stay in school. William Walton crossed his legs as he listened with interest. And the result? What do you think? Jack advised her. Moisha smiled. William Walton shook his head and laughed. This little girl, she probably doesn't know that you and old Fox are already eyeing her. Otherwise, why I raised her up? She sat at the side, feeling a bit bored. What were they talking about? She didn't understand at all. William Walton knew that she might be bored, so after sitting for more than 10 minutes, he left with Laura. The club's driver helped him drive the car. Laura said, "Take me home first, then you can go back. Let's go to your house together." "You're not going to stay at my place again, are you?" "My place is not a luxury hotel. Indeed, it's not luxurious enough. However, even if that place is even more dilapidated, you are there." When she heard his words, she felt both warm and shy. As for why she was shy, it was probably because of Flamit. She recalled the scene in which they were sleeping in each other's arms last night. "Oh right, why didn't you tell me earlier that Avery Harris was also working at the school?" William Walton's words immediately caused her to feel guilty. "I thought you knew." He raised his eyebrows, as if he had seen through her guilt. "How would I know if you didn't tell me?" "I thought the headmaster told you. You were so close to me, yet you didn't tell me. Why did she tell me the whereabouts of her son?" She pursed his lips but did not say a word. Seeing her silence, William Walton actually thought too much. He felt displeased in his heart as he said, "What? You said that your relationship had already passed, but you still can't forget him?" She turned her head to glare at him. "No way." "Then why didn't you say so?" "Because I don't want to cause unnecessary trouble. If you knew that Avery Harris came to school, you would probably think too much about it, right? It's not like the Walton family and the Harris family have any deep grudges, so what reason do I have to make you deal with the Harris family just because of me? Furthermore, Avery Harris is Avery Harris and I am me. Where he is working right now, to me, has no effect at all." William Walton sized her up. "Then tell me, in your heart right now, who is more important between me and Avery Harris?" Chapter 123. He ate her heart. She turned to look at him. Does William Walton need to be so childish? Who would be the first to be saved by these two? Was there a need to use this question to test her heart? "I'm clearly sitting right in front of you, but you're still considering such a simple question?" When William Walton said this, his tone carried displeasure. However, Laura giggled. "You're saying I'm jealous, but you're the one being jealous." "That's right, I'm just jealous. I have the guts to admit it." "Yes, you have guts." "Laura, don't change the topic. Tell me, who is more important between him and me?" "You." This time, she did not hesitate. William Walton was overjoyed. "You're not just fawning on me?" "Why did I do that? Right now, Avery Harris is nothing compared to a stranger to me. What's the point of comparing you to him?" "Then what were you hesitating for?" "I was thinking, why would I answer such a childish question?" William Walton remained calm as he raised his eyebrows. "What does this have to do with being childish? I am jealous." She didn't want to argue with him. The next day, she was busy at school. Her phone rang. She opened it and took a look. It was a message from Benjamin Walton. "Sister-in-law, I brought the photo of Miranda's signature here from home. I'm afraid that you are busy. I'll be the good guy to the end and will help you hand it over to that group of students." "You are welcome." She frowned. Why were these brothers so alike? She quickly replied, "I'll ask for the autograph. But you are benefited. You're obviously taking advantage of the fact that you're helping others. You even want me to thank you." Benjamin Walton replied, "Laura, why don't you think about who found this trouble for me?" When she saw this message, she became even more convinced. These brothers of the Walton family were all crafty and shrewd. It didn't matter if they were old or young. She wasn't a match for them. With brothers like them, the Walton family deserved to be rich. The next day, William Walton made an emergency trip to Hong Kong. Even though he hadn't been back in 3 days, no matter how busy he was every day, he would always call her and say goodnight to her. When William Walton was here, she didn't feel anything. But when William Walton left, she could actually feel a sense of loneliness. This sort of loneliness came from the depths of her soul. In fact, this was exactly what she was most afraid of. The reason why she didn't dare to accept him was because she was afraid that one day, when she got used to his existence, he would hurt her. On that day, she would have to dig him out from the depths of her soul. She was afraid that the pain would kill her. She turned on her cell phone and looked at the headlines for the past few days of entertainment news. Because they did not explain. The news about William Walton and Miranda was getting hotter and hotter. When the reporters asked Miranda about her relationship with him, she could only smile and not reply. Such an attitude gave the media an opportunity to take advantage of their relationship. In their newsletters, almost all of them used the word admit. She sighed. If it wasn't the truth, why didn't William Walton explain? She tossed the phone aside. She was a little concerned. This kind of emotion was very obvious. Obviously, even if she didn't want to admit it, she had no choice but to admit it. William Walton was indeed corroding her heart bit by bit. She caressed her heart. "Laura, don't go any further. If you're not careful, you will be smashed to smithereens by the cliff in front of you." Early in the morning, she walked from the bus stop to the school gate. Betty Anderson came again. The two women looked into each other's eyes, neither of them friendly. Betty Anderson walked from the side of the sports car to in front of her with sunglasses in her hand. "Let me ask you, is the matter between Miranda and Mr. Walton is real or not?" "You're asking me this kind of question? I'm not like the worm in William Walton's stomach. How could I know?" Betty Anderson looked at her with disdain and laughed. What? He abandoned you? Like I said, a woman like you, other than having a face, you have nothing at all. It looks like Mr. Walton has played with you enough. Her eyes turned cold as she took a step forward. Betty Anderson, speak with respect. Since you flaunt yourself every day as a lady of a noble family, then don't act like a disgusting rat. Betty Anderson disdainfully said. You got angry out of embarrassment. She raised her eyebrows proudly. It seems that's right. Sk. How pitiful. She put on her sunglasses. Just you wait. I will definitely turn William Walton into my man. After saying that, she turned around and walked towards her sports car. The door opened, and she was about to get into the car when Laura stepped forward and blocked the door. She looked at Betty Anderson with disdain, hugged onto her chest, and laughed coldly. You will definitely not be able to get William Walton. He's not someone that a superficial woman like you can have. If you don't believe, then just wait and see. After she finished speaking, she gave her a cold look before turning around and walking back to school. Betty Anderson turned her head and slapped her. She couldn't get it, and she didn't want her to get it either. Heh, this woman was truly as vicious as her mother. The more she said that she couldn't get it, the more she wanted to show it to her. Betty Anderson got on the car and found Nick Anderson's number. Brother, have you decided on the thing I told you last time? On the other end of the phone, Nick Anderson was filled with displeasure. Are all the men in this world dead? Why do you insist on marrying him? If Laura can, then why I can't? On the other side, Nick Anderson was silent for a long time. A few days ago, Betty Anderson came to find him and said that she wanted to marry William Walton. Back then, he had scolded her harshly. However, she was unrepentant and even threatened to do it by herself if no one helped her. By then, the whole Anderson family would be embarrassed. Originally, he had been very happy in his heart when William Walton had made a scandal over the past few days. After all, it was a good thing that William Walton was able to shift his gaze away from Laura. But now, another Betty Anderson appeared. The daughters of the Anderson family had all been infected with some kind of parasite. They all insisted on being with Walton family. He narrowed his eyes and asked, What do you want to do? That Miranda dares to seduce the Mr. Walton, I want to discredit her in the entertainment circle. Nonsense. The problem isn't with Miranda, but rather with William Walton. His existence would cause women to rush in like a flock of ducks. I don't care. I have to let those women know they can't touch the man that I like. She hung up. Nick Anderson was furious in his heart when he called back again. Betty Anderson was already unwilling to answer. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The Anderson family was truly a magical place. It could even give birth to a clever child like Laura, or could also give birth to a retard like Betty Anderson, who didn't even have a brain. Chapter 124, Betty Anderson and William Walton. In the afternoon, Nick Anderson called Laura and said that he would eat dinner with her. After she got off work, she got into his car when she came out of school. Nick Anderson brought her to the restaurant. After the two of them had ordered, Nick Anderson asked, How have you been recently? How's the school? Are you getting used to it? She proudly raised her eyebrows. Who am I? I've long adapted to such a small matter. Who else could you be? You are my sister. Nick Anderson laughed. I was worried that you might be busy with work recently, so I didn't dare to find you. He picked up his teacup and took 2 sips of water. Oh yeah, I saw on the news that William Walton and that female celebrity are very close, you and him. Have you not been seeing each other much recently? When Nick Anderson said this, he was only probing. But when he brought up William Walton, she instinctively disagreed with this topic. After all, Betty Anderson had just come to find her in the morning. Seeing that Laura did not say anything, Nick Anderson said, Heh, don't think too much. I've been annoyed to death by Betty Anderson recently. She looked at him. What did she do? She said that she took a fancy to William Walton and wouldn't marry unless it was William Walton. She also said that she would sacrifice herself to ease the bad relationship between the two families. In short, Nick Anderson sighed. You might not be able to imagine her expression when she said that. If she wasn't my sister, I would have slapped her twice to clear her mind. She lowered her eyes and smiled. Nick Anderson's eyes were filled with tenderness. What are you laughing about, girl? When I saw you being so close to William Walton at that time, I clearly knew his goal, yet I knew that he was unreliable. I advised you, but you didn't listen. Fortunately, William Walton has shifted his attention away from you, so you were able to withdraw in time to avoid too much pain. Listen to my advice from now on, stay away from him, understand? She looked at him and pursed her lips. The relationship between William Walton and I isn't what you think. Then what is your relationship? Friend, yeah, he's a pretty good friend. Nick Anderson sighed. You are still too inexperienced. Then let me ask you, you treat him as a friend. What does he think of you? She paused for a moment and did not say a word. Nick Anderson continued to speak. He treats you as a woman that can be tricked into bed. There are too many women revolving around him. If you let him obtain you, do you think, in his eyes, you will be a priceless treasure? After pausing for a moment, she looked at him. After Nick Anderson finished speaking, he had also suddenly reacted to something and said, Could it be that you and him have already? Brother, she frowned, unhappy. Don't talk nonsense. Nick Anderson heaved a sigh of relief. I say, you wouldn't do such a foolish thing. Don't go and eat the losses that your mother has suffered previously, understand? She clearly knew that Nick Anderson was doing this for her own benefit, but these words coming from his mouth made her feel really awkward. However, she nodded. I know. After dinner, the two of them left the restaurant. Nick Anderson sent her back downstairs. Just as Laura was about to get off the car, Nick Anderson asked, Laura, I have something to ask you. She unbuckled her seatbelt and looked at him. You feel, Betty Anderson and William Walton, are they suitable? She frowned. You said that I'm your sister, so you're not willing to let me into the tiger's den, but is Betty Anderson not your sister? In your eyes, what is the reason why I can't but Betty Anderson can? Nick Anderson hurriedly shook his head. No, Laura, you misunderstand my meaning. I did not say that you are inferior to Betty Anderson, and I do not wish for you to get close to William Walton because you do not understand how dark his family is. If you go with William Walton, I'm afraid that you will be injured, but Betty Anderson is different. Even though I am opposed to Betty Anderson wanting to marry William Walton, if I do not care about this matter, Betty Anderson will definitely do as she pleases. At that time, the one who would be in trouble wouldn't be her, but the entire family, who was running things behind my back. As the manager of the Andersons group now, I cannot let Betty Anderson do whatever she wanted. But now, no matter how I look at it, I feel that Betty Anderson and William Walton belong to two different worlds. I was really confused. That's why I asked you that question. She didn't know how persuasive this explanation would be to her. She only knew that she didn't like him putting Betty Anderson and William Walton together. Betty Anderson? How dares she? It's not appropriate. In this world, there is nothing more unsuitable than the two of them to be together. Betty Anderson overestimated herself. Don't you know your own sister? William Walton is a good person. Even 100 of Betty aren't worthy of one William Walton. After she finished speaking, she opened the car door and got off, then turned her head with a cold face and said to Nick Anderson, Brother, I'll go home first, you better drive carefully. She turned around and walked back into the building. Looking at her back figure, Nick Anderson's heart was alarmed. Was this how she treated William Walton as a friend? He gripped the steering wheel tightly. This girl clearly had feelings for William Walton. If he continued to stay silent, then perhaps... He picked up his phone and called Betty Anderson. Betty Anderson was still unwilling to answer his call. He quickly replied, I'll help you. He started the car and drove away. Just as the car drove up to the entrance of the residential complex, his phone rang. He pulled over and picked up the phone. Hello? You really want to help me? That's right. Don't do anything until I tell you exactly what to do. Do you hear me? It's too late. Nick Anderson frowned. What did you do? I have hired many people to scold Miranda in internet. Humph, following that Miranda will be out of luck. Nick Anderson shouted, Idiot. What right do you have to scold me? If that William Walton really has feelings for Miranda, and something happens to her, do you think he would just stand by and watch? With your little trick, just a little investigation will be enough to get you out. By then, your man will have a bad impression of you, even before he know you. Hearing that, Betty Anderson became anxious. Oh my God, then what do we do now? What can we do? Lend the responsibility to others. Remember, don't mess around anymore. Got it. When she returned home, she sat down on the sofa with a depressed expression on her face. Her phone rang. Seeing that it was William Walton, she chose to ignore him. It was all the man's fault, or she wouldn't have gotten so angry. She took a breath. She muted her phone, making it dark. Chapter 125, Sudden Attack. The next day was Saturday, and she rarely slept in. When she woke up at 9 o'clock, she didn't want to move. The relationship between William Walton and the one who was still on the search engine yesterday was completely changed by Miranda's scandal. It had only been a single night, and it seemed like the entire world was focused on the Miranda's past. She started falling in love in high school. Abortion? She relied on a man in college. To rookies in the performing arts industry, she never helped them. She even dug out the ambiguous news about her relationship with several young masters of wealthy class. Laura was somewhat surprised. What kind of situation was this? This Miranda was way too unlucky to have suffered such a large explosion. But it didn't seem to have anything to do with her. She browsed through other news for a while, and after seeing that it was 10:30, she finally got up, washed her face, and went downstairs to buy some food. She wandered around the market for a long time, buying a shopping cart full of vegetables before returning home. Back at the residential complex, a new car suddenly appeared in the parking space that had been empty for many days. She took a glance from afar and did not think much about it. She went upstairs and went home. But as soon as he opened the door, she was held back by a pair of strong arms. Before she could scream, the other party spoke first. It's me. She turned her head to look at William Walton, who was standing in front of her eyes. Why are you back? Didn't you have to travel for a week? William Walton pulled her into his embrace. Why didn't you pick up the phone? She was stunned. William Walton released her and looked into her eyes. Tell me about it. I want to know what kind of huge reason is it to be able to force me to put aside my important work and hurry back. She was surprised. You came back because I didn't answer your phone? Otherwise, why do you think I'm standing here right now? She felt guilty. She didn't pick up the phone last night because she wanted to make a ruckus in her little temper and vent out some of the discontent in her heart. After all, he wasn't in the country, so even if she didn't answer his call, what could he do? However, she really did not expect that, because of her willfulness, he would give up such an important job. Thinking of the last time his secretary had called her and told her that he had left a very important contract and had come looking for her, she felt even more guilty. I'm not in a very good mood, so I don't want to bother with anyone. I didn't expect that it would affect you. After she finished speaking, she stomped her feet in depression. Why did you come back? Aren't you making my heart feel even worse? William Walton gently poked between her eyebrows. Are you suing the wrong person first? When I came back, wasn't I worried that something might have happened to you? What can happen to me? This is my territory after all. That may not be the case. Last time, someone left her territory and ran to Vancouver. That time I went to relax. William Walton smirked. So, what's the reason you're in a bad mood? A guilty conscience. William Walton said, tell me. She pursed her lips and looked at him. She couldn't tell him that it was because of him after all. I just miss my mom. When I miss my mom, I usually don't want to talk to other people. She pursed her lips and looked at him. Now that you're back, what about your business? I really didn't expect it to affect you. He smiled. Only you can influence me. Her face was slightly red, and she was somewhat touched. I'm sorry. I have an exceptionally good compensation method. Do you want to compensate me? Laura looked at him in puzzlement. How? He picked her up. The shopping cart in her hands automatically slid to the floor. Only then did she realize that William Walton was planning to do anything bad. She panicked. Why do you always do this to me? He looked at her with a doting smile, then walked into the bedroom and placed her on the bed. She tried to sit up, but he lay down beside her, pressing her down. As if you listen to me every time. He embraced her and closed his eyes, saying tiredly, I'm a little tired. Sleep with me for a while. This will be your compensation. You didn't rest on the plane? After working for a while, I was able to sleep for a bit. After I got off the plane, I had a video conference with the Americans, he said. He put his lips next to her ear and whispered, anyway, I'm very sleepy. Then, she just laid there obediently. Not long later, William Walton fell asleep. She thought he was asleep and was about to move when his magnetic voice said, don't move. She looked at him. Did I disturb you? Yes. She pursed her lips and did not move again. Initially, she felt that she had slept for a long time, and she wasn't feeling too sleepy anymore. But after lying down for a while, drowsy from sleep, she fell asleep too. When she opened her eyes again, it was already evening. She hung on his body like an octopus. As for him, he was sizing her up. Seeing his gaze, she felt embarrassed and quickly retracted her hands and feet. William Walton gently tapped the corner of his own mouth with his hand. She wondered, wiping her mouth. No drool. William Walton was speechless. Woman, you are really slow on the uptake. He leaned forward and kissed her on the lips. I'm asking for an afternoon kiss. She blushed and felt embarrassed. She sat up and touched her belly. Oh my God, I'm so hungry. I'm gonna cook. She rolled off the bed and headed for the kitchen. She simply cooked pasta. Just like last time, William Walton took a bath and put on her bath towel before coming out. She looked at him and could not help but laugh. He lowered his head and looked at himself. Is it funny? A little. He walked over and said, let's eat. I'm very hungry too. After eating half a bowl of noodles, she looked at him and said, by the way, did you read the news? No, what happened? Your gossip girlfriend has made a lot of headlines on the internet overnight. Gossip girlfriend. He raised his eyebrows. You're talking about Miranda? That's right, she was attacked heavily. Does this have anything to do with me? Huh? He raised an eyebrow and looked at her. Do you mind? She felt a wave of awkwardness. Not at all. Don't worry about it. After all, it's someone else's business. She pouted. It can't be considered as someone else's matter. This matter, more or less, happened because of you. Because of me? It was because of the scandal between you and Miranda that you pushed her to the heart of the struggle. No one investigated her before. This scandal has not been going on for a day or two. Why did they choose yesterday to spread it? And it's a large-scale scandal. William Walton remained calm. Don't you think that she has offended someone? There's no need for you to worry about it. Don't worry, my heart is still with you. She blushed and hit him.